Welcome to the Saga of the Clone Saga, a podcast presented by the students of S.H.I.E.L.D. We're reading and talking about the entire infamous 1990s Spider-Man Clone Saga. In this episode, we're taking a look again, kind of, at the origins of the Spider-Man clone. So my name is Vincent, and who do I have with me?
I am Nick.
I'm Mike again.
All right, so today we're reading the arcs of the Double and the Parker Legacy. And it's important to note, I mentioned this at the end of the last episode, we're following the chronological reading order as used for the complete epic paperback collections that Marvel put out. And they've recently reprinted a bunch of them. And so these follow more of a chronological reading order, machine time. So that's why off the bat, we're starting off with some backstory on Ben Reilly. And I'm not totally sure if the order is different in the omnibus releases. But if you're reading the omnibus releases for the Clone Saga, I feel bad for you. So actually, Nick usually handles the sponsor, but this time I'm going to handle the sponsor. You can see there's a little sticker there, 50% off sticker, because our sponsor, unofficially, is Comic Swap in State College, who I picked up a few of the final volumes for my set from them, because I sadly own all the Clone Saga physically. And so shout out to them for helping me complete that lifelong goal.
I mean, yesterday in a DM, you admitted to me that you are a loser, and with that, I think you really just confirmed it.
Yep. So why won't you kill me? All right. So the first arc that we're talking about is the Double. But on the covers, it's called Birth of a Spider-Man. So whatever. And it was told in Web of Spider-Man 117, Amazing Spider-Man 394, Spider-Man 51, and Spectacular Spider-Man 217, which all of those issues are also the start of the actual Clone Saga, but this was a flip book story. So you'd pick up the issue, and on the front is the start of the Clone Saga, and then you flip it, and starting from here, and it wouldn't be upside down, you'd literally flip it, would be this backup story of Ben Reilly's origins. And I don't know, I'm trying to think, can't think of when any of the comics publishers have done a flip book recently, in recent times. But it was like a semi-big thing in the 90s. It was like a marketing gimmick and whatever. It's basically just a way to promote a backup, or like if you want to launch a new title like inside of another title that's already like very popular. I know like Valiant did it a few times. So I'm gonna say that it was originated by Valiant. That may not be true, but let's go with that.
It's not really related to what we're talking about now, so we don't have to talk about that.
And so these issues came out October 1994, and this story is written by J.M. DeMatteis, which it's John Mark DeMatteis, and they're drawn by Liam Sharp. So what did you guys think of the Double?
I don't know. It was just, like you said about the clone and what he's been up to, but it's all stuff that's sort of pointless, especially when it gets later and we see literally an issue like we've already seen before. So I didn't think it was that great or that relevant. I mean, it was relevant to the clone itself, but I didn't really care.
I like how when he comes out of the little cloning chamber, Ben Reilly's just kind of like looking sad.
Yeah,
like he's done something wrong.
Yeah, I'm not sure totally how much of that is intentional. Like, there's some weird like facial expressions going on in this story. Like Nick said, like especially the last issue, it's like this is really just a repeat of the original Clone Saga, and then it's repeat of everything we saw flashed back to in the Spectacular Spider-Man issues with Carrion that we read, and in the What If issue that we read last episode. So we've now seen this Shea Stadium fight probably like 6 times.
Yeah,
already.
Every time it's different.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is, so this story basically, and we alluded to this last episode, but this story basically trashes all of the stuff that was done in Spectacular Spider-Man with Carrion. Like all of the retcons with Anthony Serba and the whole cloning process not being legit, and obviously Ben Reilly like not getting away and all that stuff. All that stuff's thrown out. For better or worse.
Yeah.
Great. I liked as Ben Reilly's like also like, and more of this in the next story, but like Ben Reilly's pretty angsty.
Yeah.
At first it's like this whole like, am I a human? And then it gets into obviously like, I'm not Peter Parker, but I am Peter Parker. And then just in general the way he acts.
I liked when the Jeff came back and he still had the Jeff hack.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get another Jeff hack scene. And I like this Jeff hack scene because I think he actually did something similar in the first time. But he has like, he's in the jetpack, he's holding the Gwen clone, and then like, strapped up like real tight, but like with like an extension of the jetpack.
Wait, actually, now I think about it, wasn't Tarantula wearing it the first time?
Yeah, and he carries them both off.
So this is the first time we get to see
cable that attaches to get this other one. What's really weird is the first panel we see Gwen Stacy, holy proportions. It doesn't look like an actual human being at all.
Yeah, there's some 90s body proportions, especially on the women, because there's another panel where like the clone is having like this, like he's trying to make sense of all his memories and stuff, and there's one where it's like Gwen and MJ both there. Yeah. And it's in this like very static like way, which kind of makes sense for the purpose of the scene. But it reminds me of like if you ever like mess around with video games and they glitch up where like character models just go like this. You know what I'm talking about?
I think it's also is in the beginning of part 3, it like starts with Ben putting on a Spider-Man costume and he just yells, "Who am I?"
One of my favorite captions in the first issue is he's like just trying to figure out whether he's a human and stuff like that. It's not from Ben's point of view, it's just the narrator says a sense of maleness, of sexual identity forms.
You were gonna choose like the orgy line?
Oh yeah. So also I think this is a new thing where like they show that, I mean, we already knew Miles Warren hated Spider-Man, and like you get the idea that he's like just using the clone purely as a tool and like doesn't care. Mm-hmm. But like here he just like beats him like this like dog or child.
And, he's like,
and yeah,
why.
It's beats him like a father whose like son is just met, like he just beats him up like a scumbag dad.
Yeah, and Ben describes it at his beatings as an orgy of physical abuse. Which, I mean, that's some creative wording. So what'd you guys think of the art overall? We've touched on it a little bit.
I mean, we'll get into JRGIR later, but like I don't really like this at all. I feel like it's the colors and the coloring in this is like very muted. It's very weird. Also it's got that 90s like kind of rank to it where like there's like when we see the other Spider-Man, it's just comically proportionally funny. Where like this fight when they're facing each other.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because this is drawn by Liam Sharp, who is actually was one of the artists on Greg Rucka's recent DC Rebirth Wonder Woman run. Mm-hmm. Got his start. He's British, or from the British Isles somewhere. And
this is like, the same guy. He improved vastly.
Yeah. So like a lot of guys from there, he started at 2000 AD doing like, some Judge Dredd stories and stuff like that. And then he moved to Marvel UK and he did Death's Head with Dan Abnett, I believe. And then he moved over and started working, or I don't know that he physically moved, but he started working for Marvel's main division. And pretty much right before this, he did a Venom miniseries. Basically, through the whole 90s, Venom technically never had an ongoing series, but basically every single month there was an issue of a miniseries out. And so that had wrapped up pretty much right before this. So this is really like his second major thing. And this is basically a backup. And then his next major thing at Marvel after some of this Clone Saga stuff is he did still with J.M. DeMatteis, he did a Man-Thing run in the late 90s. But yeah, at this point, and I can't speak too much to how this compares with like Death's Head and stuff like that, or even much Man-Thing. I'm not super familiar with that, but like this is 90s as hell. The musculature is insane. Like Ben Reilly's just ripped. He escapes from Warren's lab and just starts running around. And then Jackal shows back up to grab him but Ben starts beating the shit out of the Jackal, and so the Jackal pulls the trump card, which is the Gwen clone, and then they rocket away with his hilarious jetpack. There's one of the scenes, it's like a flashback. It's like an implanted flashback scene or whatever with Jackal messing with him, where it's the clone having his memory of Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
And the like lettering stood out to me for like one panel because he's like crying or whatever. And so they smashed all of his words together, which is kind of funny because one of our co-hosts who is not here, Matt, does some stuff like that. Very much a wannabe Spider-Man.
Well, that's how all of his Snapchats are written.
Yeah.
Also, it's bolded or noticeably more bolded in font.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and then
by the end of this flashback sequence, he just thinks he's Peter, right?
Yeah.
All the memories, just like how we see him.
Yeah, he's basically fully conditioned now.
Yeah.
Which makes like all the previous stuff sort of not matter within the context of this. And then the last issue of this arc, we get the S.H.I.E.L.D. Stadium fight again, like we said.
You should start taking a shot every time we see the S.H.I.E.L.D. Stadium fight.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping this will be the last time. I'm not really sure. We're going to have to get the Ben Reilly origin.
Let's take our bets now. Let's predict like an over under. I'm gonna say over 2 times.
I'll say 2. I'll say we'll get 2 flashbacks to this.
Yeah, I was gonna say 2.
Okay, I'm saying over 2, so I'm saying at least 3.
All right. So the Gwen clone during the S.H.I.E.L.D. Stadium does what she did in the original, which was something that we discussed in What If, where they skipped that part. And another thing that possible change, I don't know. In the original story, do you guys remember whether Peter kept the costume on the clone when he took it to the incinerator?
I believe he did.
Yeah.
Okay. For a second, I thought he just took the corpse and like threw out the costume separately or something like that. You think he would just keep the costume as a backup?
Have an extra costume.
Yeah, like why would you get rid of that? Like, if anything, you are running the chance of someone finding a Spider-Man costume like tattered up in the like incinerator, and someone's gonna ask. Well, I mean, there's probably a bunch of Spider-Man costumes.
In the What If, the clone talks about the costume. He says like it felt cheaply made, like it wasn't like an actual costume.
Oh yeah.
So maybe that's
true.
Part of it.
I guess
wakes up in the incinerator.
I guess Miles Warren can't clone fabrics.
Not a seamstress.
But it would be like the way that the High Evolutionary claimed that his cloning worked. So like he'd take like a suit, like an actual, just like a regular clothes, and then inject it, and it would turn into a Spider-Man costume. And so then we learn that Ben wakes up in the incinerator, and he's like, "Oh, I should probably get out of here." And I love how it's kind of like the What If, where it's like he still thinks he's Peter Parker for a while, but it doesn't take nearly as long.
Yeah.
Because he shows up to his house, which again, we don't have that like 3 years thing going on. So like he has 100% of the memories, pretty much. Which I thought the 3 years thing was interesting because like it puts the point on like when Miles got the like DNA samples.
So it took a little bit to clone Peter.
Yeah. So whatever, he has pretty much exactly the same memories as Pete. So he shows up at his apartment, and he just catches Pete and MJ just getting hot and heavy. Which, like, again, this is like right after the Clone Saga. So, like, I mean, I get that's pretty much. I guess that is really what happened, sort of.
Yeah, kind of.
I actually like. I mean, it's not like this, like, fantastic emotional scene, but I sort of like the way Liam Sharp draws MJ. And I thought you could tell like a little bit of emotion.
I think his MJ is better than his Gwen. I think a lot of that is because we're not as close up on MJ, so like there's not any weird body proportions going on. Also, her dress is a little bit longer, so it's not as noticeable.
You see her in the flashback; it's pretty short, like it's the same size as Gwen's. But then here,
and then look at Gwen's. Gwen's is considerably shorter.
Here, though, it's better.
So Ben, he knows he's the clone, and then we see him breaking down in the rain, and
the end,
which pretty much transitions right into the next story. The next story, like, it's not 100% clear, but like the next story could pick up literally a minute later because it opens with him in the rain.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it did.
Yeah. So the next arc is the Parker Legacy, and these weren't actually flip books; they were just regular backups, and they were in Amazing Spider-Man 400, Spider-Man 57, and Spectacular Spider-Man 223 in April '95. So this is a little bit later publishing-wise, but chronologically, like I said, this is right after. And this is still DeMatteis, but now it's John Romita Jr. drawing it, and he's also inking himself on all of these, I believe. So we open back up in the rain, and we get some time reference, which is helpful.
Yeah.
5 years.
Apparently, this is 5 year. The story is 5 years from the present, and the present is as the Clone Saga is developing. So Ben was gone for 5 years, which is interesting because we can compare that back to like all of the like wishy-washy bullshit time references when we were like looking at Gwen's death and then the original Clone Saga, which in very like at times I think they were saying 3 months, and then at one point it turned into 3 years in like an issue.
Yeah, something like that.
So angsty, like I was saying, angsty Ben Reilly, he tries to kill himself like 2 times in this story, basically.
On the car, why didn't you kill me?
Yeah, he tries to just let a truck run him over.
And then he blames Peter.
For his like
existence, I guess.
No. I mean, like he blames Peter for like appreciating the sanctity of life. Oh. So now the question is, would Ben Reilly's programming allow him to have his girlfriend get an abortion? Just something to consider. I also like, this is skipping ahead a little bit in the story, but apparently Peter Parker doesn't really drink at all.
Yeah.
And so due to that, Ben Reilly can't handle his alcohol either. Which I think, I don't know, why doesn't Peter drink? Like,
I remember
it's not like he's
The only time I remember him drinking is when he drinks during I think it's Dan Slott's run, and then he hooks up with that Michelle chick that was like his roommate. He drank
Yeah,
too much.
Michelle Rodriguez. Not played by, I don't even remember the actress's name in Spider-Man.
Zendaya.
Yeah, but like, I mean, he hangs out with. I don't understand why Spider-Man doesn't drink.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not like Batman.
Would you guys
drinking ginger ale? Like he has to keep it up. Like Peter Parker can drink if he wants to.
Yeah,
and you think?
Yeah, and like he hangs out with like his friends are pretty chill and stuff like that.
He's in his early 20s,
especially in this era.
in college. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
His powers would probably help him not get as drunk, just because of his healing factor a little bit.
There's also moments I want to say that like it's very kind of noticeable. Like it just kind of because now Klaus Janson inks a lot of JRJR stuff, and I just think it looks so much better here now than what his art turned into. Maybe that's. I mean, it's been 20 years, so.
Yeah, I was about to ask what you guys think about Ramita. I like this era too.
It's still a little bit blocky.
Actually,
still a lot better than what it is now. Like now, it's just kind of I don't want to say it's almost a shell, but like I think Janssen's inks impact a lot of it.
Well, I don't know how much of it is that, and how much of it is just the evolution of Ramita's style, because it pretty much is a straight line where as his career goes on, it gets more like blockier, and like a lot of people describe like he had like a lot of his figures they have like smushed faces, like that's what people call it, like the weird faces that he ends up doing in like Kick-Ass and certain like scenes in his Spider-Man and Superman stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a big fan of the run that he did on Spider-Man with JMS with J. Michael Straczynski in like the 2000s. But honestly, like I don't know, I'd have to really think whether I prefer his style in this era or then, because even then it's really blocky in certain scenes, and in other scenes it's like not as prominent. But like occasionally you'll see someone post a scene from that JMS run, like on a forum or something like that, and you'll see people in the comments like, "This is the worst art I've ever seen."
What's
like
weird
there are lots of people who hate Ramita.
I felt like, I mean, I'm a big believer that Man Without Fear is the best thing he ever drew, and even that's got the blockiness to it. It feels like the only thing that really wasn't ever blocky in his style was X-Men. But I mean, Ramita's gone on saying that his style is the Deadline style.
Yeah.
Whatever comes out at the Deadline, that's the style it looks. I mean, and for a long time he prided himself on that. I don't think is Ramita ever really a late artist. I think.
No, I don't think he's really known for that.
Yeah, so I mean, he's a guy known for getting stuff done on time, and if that's the way it looks when it gets done on time, that's the way it looks. So, I mean, he's easily one of my favorite artists ever. So, and I think a lot of it getting worse is just in blockier is that's what happens with time. I mean, it happened with Frank too. With Frank Miller is, just case in point, look at Wolverine and then look at Dark Knight Returns. That's almost only a few years of deviation, and it's Frank by the time he gets to Dark Knight Returns is already super blocky. So, and and both art and like it's kind of like you have these two distinct eras where you have like this and this, so there's always something new to look at with the art. So, I mean, I like the art fine here. I think, though, definitely, I think the benefits of the inking are a lot better when Ramita has control of it or Milgram's controlling it. I'm just not a big fan of Jansen doing inking for him. But yeah, this still looks solid. Like we said, the JMS run looks beautiful. So, I mean,
yeah, we get some really great poses from him. Like there's one where it's like a silhouette, so like through the art we basically get like black suit Spidey because of the shadows and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. There's a really cool when Ben's on the bus and he's kind of imagining what Spider-Man would do. I swear there's a panel It's like a faded panel, almost like looking like a hologram Spider-Man, and I swear it almost looks like his dad. Looks like his dad's art.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
And Romita's also pretty famous for like rain scenes.
Yeah,
And
classic rain Spider-Man scenes.
yeah, and he does rain in like this very specific way where like even the rain has like that blocky effect that he does. But I fucking love Spider-Man in the rain like this.
Yeah, he's one of the only. He makes rain look so cool. Like the way, like even like the scenes in Silhouette with as it's falling down. There's a close up of Spider-Man's face, and it's like the water's all over his mask and dripping. It looks so good.
Yeah.
I will say though, it's funny how Ben Reilly's hair gets longer progressively throughout this. By the end of it, remember when we were watching Scrooged, and there's the flashback scene to Bill Murray's hair, and it just looks crazy. Ben's hair kind of gets that level of crazy when they're at the bar.
Yeah, he's developing like a little bit of a mullet, but the chronology doesn't really make much sense because he had pretty much the exact same haircut as Spider-Man, and chronologically that was like a day ago.
Yeah, but like if you look at it, his hair is like crazy long mullet by the time it's done.
Yeah. So basically he's free from the Jackal and all that stuff, but he has his whole false memories and relationships and everything that he can't connect with. And so he's freaking out. I liked how for a minute, just like the what if issue, he considers like just murdering Peter Parker and taking over his life. Which, I mean, I feel like maybe we need another what if issue exploring that.
If he'd done it.
But maybe not. And so he does break into Peter's apartment, and this scene's hilarious.
He steals his money and a couple shirts.
Yeah, and his clothes. And since there's not the 3 years thing, he can wear any of Peter's clothes perfectly well. But I like how like he takes the ones in the back that apparently, because the memories are so like near exact, he knows that Peter was planning to take them to like the Salvation Army soon or something. But like, so the question is, does Peter ever take notice of either of these things? And if he does he think it over at all?
I always got the
perception. Does he
perception
just be like, oh, I must have messed up?
That Peter's kind of a forgetful guy, or like he doesn't really notice the small details anyway. So this feels like, yeah, he's like he wouldn't really notice this. But the money, though, I feel like he definitely would notice. Like,
yeah, and it's funny because Ben justifies it. He's like, I feel like a thief, but I'm also kind of his clone, so and I need it. And then
steals Peter's nest egg.
And then we get a creepy scene where he shows up at Aunt May's house. And what happens then, Nick?
I mean, he thinks about he basically just leaves right away before she knows he's there. She does like turn around and think she hears something, and she looks out the window, but he just hops over the fence. Like he wants to go in and say hello, but he's like, nah, be a bad idea.
And also right before that, like we get narration from Aunt May for like a full page where she's like talking about how she's lonely, but she's not lonely.
Who cares?
I just liked how at one point she says like she looks in the mirror and she can't recognize herself with all the wrinkles. It's like, is that meta? Because Aunt May just looks ridiculous and always has.
I feel like we're talking about Romita Jr. I feel like his Aunt May looks fine though. It's better than Liam Sharp's like weird witch creature that he drew her as, and that's.
I mean, it looks fine for like the aesthetic that has been established since the very beginning, where she's like this weird, like super wrinkled, ugly prune face. But also, was she out of the hospital in the original story?
No.
Mm,
Yes. May she? It seemed like she was kind of in and out.
I don't really remember because I'm getting it mixed up because in the present time she's still in the hospital as well.
Right.
But I remember she was in the hospital during the Clone Saga for parts of it.
Because she thought she was having dementia.
Yeah, she sees Gwen in Peter's apartment, and she's like, "My heart." But
so Ben gets on a bus to
San Fran.
It's to San Francisco, which I'll be interested to see how that pops up because Venom went to San Francisco to do his Lethal Protector stuff there, away from Peter Parker. But I don't know but I think Ben comes back to New York during the start of the actual Clone Saga. So I don't think that San Francisco thing connects with Venom at all. I'm not sure. We will see as we proceed. And so he's on this bus, and this like old sad sack shoe store owner is just trying to be friendly with him.
You get this planes, trains, and automobiles situation with them.
And Ben,
but
just
only
like his
automobiles was much darker.
Yeah, and Ben, just like his blueprint, Peter Parker, acts like a total dick and tells the guy off. Also, then I guess he goes to sleep for a little bit, takes a little nap on the bus, which is probably what I'm going to be doing in 16 hours. And he has a dream like about Spider-Man's villains and stuff. But I have issues with this as well. Because in his dream, he's dreaming about Spider-Man villains. And again, it's a dream, so it doesn't really matter. But he dreams about Green Goblin and Kraven, who are both dead. Well, one of them, quote unquote. And technically, he could be dreaming about Harry Osborn.
Well,
but Kraven shot himself.
But he wouldn't know that.
Right.
Why would he not know that?
This is a clone from... Wait.
Oh, wait, no, yeah. No.
I'm trying to think of when...
Oh, yeah, no, Kraven hasn't died yet.
Yeah, well, I was saying agreeing that,
yeah, still way in the past.
Yeah, Kraven's last hunt happens years from now.
Yeah, so, all right, that makes sense, but Norman's dead.
Right.
And, yeah, I don't know. So I don't know. I'm getting a little bit confused with the
time
chronology.
It's kind of confusing.
I mean, those are they. I mean, I just took that scene as what are popular Spider-Man villains. So just throw them in.
I'm sure that's just what the script said. Mm-hmm. And so the bus almost runs off the road, and Ben's like, "Oh, should I be a hero?" And then he ends up not having to.
Yeah. At the last second, though, he decides he is gonna. He waits a while, but he's like, "All right, I'll help out," but he doesn't have to.
Now here's the question: the bus breaks down, even though it's raining. Is the bus company actually going to give all the passengers free motel rooms? I feel like that's bullshit. No way.
After watching how planes, trains, and automobiles worked, there's no way they did.
That's such an expense.
Yep.
There's no way they would do that. But he and the nice fat guy, and as I said earlier, Ben Reilly cannot handle his alcohol. And he also, but the thing is, like, it's not clear whether it's because he's drunk, but he like just smashes up the bar and gets in a fight with the bartender. He's just an asshole, and then he tells the guy to kill himself.
We can't see the actual name of the bar because part of the name's excused. It just says the Avalar. I'm gonna assume the name of this bar is called the Traveler.
Oh,
I'm not sure.
It's the Graveler.
It's funny you say that because I don't think you know this, but I'm pretty sure there's a character in the Clone Saga called the Traveler.
Isn't one of the Isn't one of the Stan Lee like Boom creations the Traveler?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
What's funny is when Ben Reilly's drinking, he does the Spider-Man like web pose
Uh,
as he's holding a beer. It's kind of
Yeah.
funny.
Oh yeah.
I love the reaction of the bartender is to just pull out a gun and cock it and start like threatening them.
I mean, if the guy's really trashing your place, like, I don't know.
I feel like most places are going to issue a warning and that, or just tell you to get the hell out. I've never seen a place resort to having a live loaded firearm.
I mean, this
Brought
is
up.
also like a seedy motel in who knows where, somewhere along the route of New York to San Francisco.
Yeah. And then when he grabs the bartender's hand, you really get a full shot of just, all right, that's a mullet.
Oh wait, shit. That's the other thing is, since the bus went off the road, and then eventually, no, never mind. He gets back on the bus. Okay.
Yeah, he goes on. The story ends with him going on another bus, but not before stopping a suicide attempt.
Yeah, so
Spider
he
sense.
tells the guy to go kill himself.
And then his spider sense goes off when the guy's about to kill himself. Would that work?
I don't know.
Should it tell him that someone else? It's not like it's aiming. He's in danger. But I guess like we said a million times, it just depends on the writer. Spider sense is a mind of its own.
And then we get a time skip basically, and now they're friends again.
And then that's when he gets his name. He names himself.
Also, even if like they make up, like this dude also says he pays for all the damages. It's like, what? You don't really have to do that. Like, even if you're friends again, like,
Yeah, but
have the
he doesn't want his
man
wife to
handle
have
his
the
own
money.
shit. Yeah, that's like the dumbass like explanation.
Yeah.
Um,
Not great, but it's like, all right, whatever.
and then, like Nick said, then he names himself, and like the premise is that he's supposed to be naming himself to the guy who's like, "Oh, I never caught your name," but like the guy doesn't hear his name, so he's just talking, like effectively talking to himself.
He's like, "You heard me. I said Ben Reilly." Oh wait, the moved.
Yeah, so he's officially Ben Reilly, which is he's taking his uncle's first name, Uncle Ben, name of Aunt May, May Reilly, and he vows to never surrender the Parker legacy, which is the name of the story arc. So what did you guys think about these two overall, I guess?
I like the second one a lot better than the first one, but
yeah, I was gonna say that the first one
was like truly great. I just kind of felt like this is just kind of. I mean, it is supplemental material that we just read in order to get further here.
We had to start around. It was fine, I guess.
I like this better than the last couple things we read, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hyped to see the Ramita art. It was interesting to see Liam Sharp. But I mean, like you said, this is kind of just some backstory stuff that we're just crawling through since it's put at this point in the reading order. So that gets us to next episode, and next episode we're going to be reading The Lost Years, which is a miniseries again, which was published later on, but chronologically, this is supposed to show what is happening in Ben Reilly's life between basically the end of the original Clone Saga, well, the end of the stories we just read, and when he shows back up in Peter Parker's life. Which that'll be by the same writer and John Romita Jr. And we'll also see the first appearance of, well, chronologically, the first appearance of Kane, who we'll get to know Kane more as we go on as well.
Where does Kane even come from? I realized I don't even know.
He's another clone. I know that.
He's a clone of Ben or Peter. It's supposed to be Peter, right? I don't even know what his origin is.
We will see.
Find out.
It's the Clone Saga for a reason. There will be multiple clones that pop up. What are you familiar with Spider-Side?
I think I've heard you say that before, jokingly, maybe.
Yes, Spider-Side is another clone. Maybe we'll make a clone count as we go on. But I'm actually excited. The Lost Years is one of those like stories within the Clone Saga where like fans of the Clone Saga will be like, no, but this story is actually really good.
Are you one of those people?
Not well. That's the thing is I haven't really like read through the entire thing
Oh, okay.
before. I kind of just read pieces and skimmed through it. I have read The Lost Years though, and I don't remember it that much, but I seem to remember liking it. In fact, The Lost Years, it's not like a recent thing. It was probably pretty much right after the Clone Saga, but The Lost Years was actually collected in a trade. And I believe our friend Matt has my copy of The Lost Years because I upgraded, so I didn't need it anymore. So if he's on next episode, maybe he can show that off.
What's funny is that I'm starting to think that this entire endeavor from you was just because you weren't going to read all of this yourself. You want to throw it and project it onto other people to also go through this journey. So I feel like it's this weird self-help guide.
Yeah, it's to justify my expenses. It's like a tax write-off. Oh, I bought all these 11 fucking books, but I made a podcast out of it.
A podcast that we don't know if we're ever really going to finish yet.
All right, thanks for tuning in, and be sure to check out next episode. Adios.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe.